All my life, my parents told me not to open the basement door, but I got curious and disobeyed them. What is that glowing ball in the sky, and why does it hurt my eyes? I decided to kill off a few characters in the book I'm writing. It would definitely spice up my autobiography a little bit. As I felt the knife run down my skin, I felt oddly happy. Well, it wasn't my skin just yet. The tests are negative, you are not pregnant, the doctor said. I have no idea what that thing in your body is. I framed the first letter I got as a police officer, from a woman thanking me after I had supported her through her daughter's suicide. I passed it in my hallway every day for nearly 8 years before realizing the handwriting was the same as the girl's suicide note. For my last wish, I wished my dad to be alive again. I stood atop his grave and smiled, imagining him screaming and clawing at his coffin lid as he did the 2 previous times I wished him back. Battery at 1%. I looked at Earth one last time before my suit ran out of power. It's been almost a decade since I last saw my mother, and she still reminds me every day if I misbehave again she'll take my hearing too. I frantically ran to Walmart's customer service to pick up my son who got lost in the store. Nice try, sir. His father already picked him up. Yesterday I visited my boyfriend who is serving a life sentence in prison. As I watched that asshole shaking and pissing himself with fear, I knew he finally regretted beating me to death. They say we have a primal sense that we can just feel when someone is watching us. It's been a few weeks and it's clear that you do not have that sense. Now be careful, that line of rock salt is the only thing keeping them out, the man said, welcoming my group into his refuge. Sea salt, I clarified. Sea salt keeps us out. After giving birth, I asked when the young redhead nurse will be back with my baby. There's apparently no nurses working here by that description. After her best friend Julia committed suicide, my daughter Sarah started a charity in her honor to combat cyberbullying. While it took a lot of work to finally push Julia over the edge, my husband and I are just so happy that Sarah can add this activity to her college applications. I promised my wife that when I returned from the war, we'd sit down and rewatch the movie from our first date. But now she's dying in the hospital, all because she wanted to make popcorn. Daddy made me sit in a chair while he tied a string from my tooth to the doorknob. Before he slammed the door, he said, "Tell me where Mommy went and we can stop doing this." My last girlfriend got creeped out by the 14 weird dolls that I kept on display. I have a new girlfriend now, and she wants me to throw out all 15 of the disturbingly lifelike dolls. It's okay, darling. The new babysitter is here to put you to bed, my mother said as she hugged me and smiled at the young woman behind her. I'm surprised she couldn't feel me shaking as I looked upon the face that I've been seeing outside my window for weeks. My dad told me his flashlight could kill any monster. When I told him what Uncle Jack had been doing to my sister, he made sure to demonstrate. My wife told me she thinks that she's going mad and she keeps hearing voices in our house. After she committed suicide, my girlfriend helped me remove all the hidden speakers from around the house. The young boy was taught to poke holes in boxes that housed any of the little creatures he captured so that they could breathe. So when his little sister told him that she had butterflies in her stomach, knife in hand, he knew what he had to do. I've always had the supernatural ability to know where someone was by looking at a photo of them. So it pained me to tell the mother of her missing child that her daughter was in several different places. The new medication worked and the internal voices that always told me what to do were silent. Kill them all, I thought, and this time nobody argued back. I must admit, lucid dreaming really is amazing as people say. But after 2 years, I'd like to wake up again. The guy just ran up to me while screaming that somebody had locked him in a basement, blindfolded him, and starved him for days. You should have seen the look of absolute horror in his face when he recognized my voice. I gripped the diamond ring with my left hand and the grenades pin with my right. Whatever her answer, we'll be spending the rest of our lives together. I shined my flashlight over the cabinet of porcelain dolls. their pupils dilated. As the smoke surrounded me, I just managed to read the sign that said, "Warning, do not use the elevator in case of a fire." I sighed and pushed the button anyways, and sat back in my wheelchair waiting for the elevator to arrive. Suffering from depression for years, I stupidly flailed my arms around after the gunman declared, "Anyone move and I shoot." It was only after I watched 2 bullets rip through the little girl next to me did I realize that he never actually specified who. The world was thrilled with the announcement that the first mission to Mars would be an all-female crew. 1 year later, the world was terrified that they all returned pregnant. My twin brother and I decided to swap identities for a day to see if anyone would notice. It should have been me that got abducted that day. As I leave the bedroom early in the morning, I give her a kiss on the cheek, the purest form of love I can express. I make sure to close the window behind me so she won't know that I was there. Ever since I lost my hearing, I constantly turn on lights so that I'm never in the darkness. Dark doesn't scare me, but whatever keeps turning them off behind me does. I screamed, ran out of my room, and yelled, "Dad, I saw a huge spider, can you come kill it?" I hope the man standing in the closet didn't notice that I saw him, or realize the fact that I'm actually home alone. Devastated by my dog's death and wanting to do good for others, I asked the genie to bring all animals back to life that died in the past month. It wasn't until I felt the writhing contents of my stomach forcing its way up from my throat and out of my mouth did I realize eating a steak tonight was a very bad idea. Did you know that when you're tied up and abandoned in a basement, rats tend to eat the softest body parts first? For me, it was my eyelids. Now I literally can't look away as they slowly approach my 3-year-old who is begging me for help. After years of being taken care of at home, I finally regained my sight. But now I have to pretend to still be blind while I try to find out who these people are and what they have done with my real family. My therapist assured me that the short-term memory loss is normal after a family member dies. But if I don't remember where I hid the murder weapon soon, there's a chance that the police may find it before me. Every week I prank my insectophobic girlfriend with a new creepy crawly in our apartment. By the time I murder her, the neighbors will long be used to the sound of panicked screaming. I went to the fortune teller and she read my future. She suddenly started screaming and ran out of the room, so I ran after her and stabbed her to death. I miss the days when I would fall asleep on the couch and my parents would carry me to my bedroom. But after they informed me that they thought I had got up and gone to bed on my own, I have different feelings about it now. The teacher looked confused as the children motioned frantically about the man crawling out of the closet behind her. Too bad she muted all the kids in the Zoom call so they wouldn't talk over her story. "I must be a good boy, I must be a good boy," the dog kept repeating to himself. After being told so many times not to bark, he remained silent as he watched the serial killer silently sneak in through the window. Just by laying a hand on someone, I can tell you the time, place, and manner of that person's death, rarely off by a few minutes. It really just depends on how much they struggle after I lay my hands on them. I finished my final perfect pirouette to thunderous applause. If only I could speak and tell the little girl who owned my music box of the living hell I was trapped in. My obsession with killing people has never caused conflict with raising my family. But as my young daughter drove a pair of scissors into my neck while I was sleeping, it seemed as though I was worried about the wrong things. At first I was delighted to receive the retina transplant to restore my sight. But with some of the things I've been seeing, I'm starting to understand why the donor killed himself. My 4-year-old said he wished that people didn't have to knock. I told him about doorbells, and he asked me to install one on his window. In history class, we're listening to the sound of a nuclear alarm. The teacher turns off the sound, but the alarm continues to ring, louder and outside. Some say that the greatest lie ever told is that God exists, but today I learned the truth. The lie isn't that he exists, but that he loves us. The aliens arrived with a message of peace and love for Earth. And as the first gesture of goodwill, they removed the human parasites from the surface. "Amanda, please stop," I beg as she forces the needle through my skin. "But you promised we'd never leave my side," she said, continuing to stitch us together. I can't believe we're not taking climate change seriously. Did they forget what we left in the ice caps? We'll find the source of that smell, I assured the homeowner as I knelt down and wedged myself into the crawl space. But just as I saw a very familiar looking uniform in the gray of long dead flesh, I heard the floorboards being hammered back into place. Her letter read, "I'm breaking up with you." The raft we spent months building on the desert island was gone too. I wondered how I unlocked my friend's phone without it recognizing my face. Then I looked at the ceiling. A child grown up as an orphan is too terrible to think about. So I approached the sobbing girl, stepping over the bodies of her parents with the hammer raised once more. Ever since I got a job at this shopping mall, the mannequins always gave me the creeps. One day as I watched the police cracking them open, I learned that some employees hadn't really been fired. There once was a necromancer named Mai who could raise nothing larger than a fly. Each townsfolk and hero thought her a zero, till her undead swarms drained their blood dry. Reviewing the old tape from my 12th birthday party, I noticed there were some things I didn't remember at all. Like the part where everyone gazed silently into the camera, mouths agape, for 2 hours until the candles burnt out.